Okay, it's 7:30. Stand for the pledge. Call the meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Happy August. Seems more like April or May out there. All right.
Excuse me.
Remind everybody that once again, the public hearing on the short-term rental regulations remains open. I believe tonight we may be looking to close it. So if anybody has anything they want to say, go ahead. Anytime during the meeting, raise your hand. Anybody want anything to say?
Any changes, any updates, what's happening?
Well, I got it under planning board too, but guess we can dive right into it. Have you heard anything back from the lawyers on some of the questions that came out of the last public meeting?
We decided at our last planning board meeting that we really didn't have any more questions.
Okay.
That everything that was asked had already been addressed in.
And in the past, from the board standpoint, I believe when we pulled the board a couple of, was it last meeting, the meeting before? Last one. It seems that the single biggest, there are a couple of hot button topics in there, but the biggest one is the moratorium. And you know, I'm not trying to lead the parade or anything like that, but if I had my druthers, I'd remove that from the package and move forward. It's up to the rest of the board to do that. We're not looking, in my opinion, to adopt tonight. We're just looking to close the public hearing. And if we're going to take anything out, make the suggestions to lawyers to make sure that it's redacted properly, and then post that and move forward.
I would just like to say I agree with you, John. Eliminate that and just move on.
I've heard from others that there also one concern is still the the local contact. If you're renting and you're out of state or out of town, you know, I think that could be an issue, but we've had that in there from the beginning with the rest of the package. And the idea was to kind of try and move this town-wide, hopefully as seamlessly as possible. And if you remove the moratorium, it's closer to that. I think we've addressed one of the biggest issues that's no longer, I think, contentious, is being able to, even if the moratorium was to stay in there, to give it at arm's length to a family member to be able to run it. But if you remove the moratorium, that kind of goes away all on its own again anyways. Would you like me to poll the board once more? Because this isn't a vote tonight. This is just to let you know where we stand.
I thought at the last meeting you said you weren't gonna close until September and vote on it in October.
The problem becomes, if we're going to make any changes to it, we've got to send it to the lawyer. The lawyer's got to get it back to us. If we're going to do that in October, we've got to give them enough time so that we can present it publicly again in September. I don't know if that makes any sense or not.
More time?
I don't want to push this into November or December. And the public hearing's been open, quite honestly, long enough. So this would be still scheduling, hopefully, a vote in October, in my opinion. But we would be able to present, because the legalities with New York State and the comptroller, you've got to have the ink dried to present something publicly, in my opinion. Again, poll the board.
I have no desire to vote for the moratorium at all. I've agreed with that since the beginning. I don't like it. Never did. I don't see that as something that should be in there. I do agree. R1 should be town-wide. It should be every short-term rental for safety reasons. Absolutely. I don't see, personally, I don't see that much need to change any of 2002. I thought at this
I think the moratorium isn't going to help anything. I'm one of the ones that's concerned about this local agent thing, because I think there's a lot of people that live within 45 minutes to an hour of here that take care of their own properties just fine. Why they have to hire another local agent to do it is, doesn't make sense to me. I think there was some interesting things brought up at the last meeting about Rocky Point and the people over there not falling under the deal. Where, you know, they can rent themselves over there, not even through the agency, but through themselves, where another person who buys the house can't. Now, if the moratorium goes away, that'll change that. Okay, so that takes that out. But as far as doing it townwide, I guess that makes sense, because it's really not fair for people on one side of the street to have to do it and on the other side not to. You know, that's kind of where I've been right along with this thing.
You bring up an interesting point I meant to mention too, the Rocky Point comparison and the cottage colonies. I mean, back at the inception of this, when everybody was sitting down at the table, you know, it was drafted as a way to find a way to allow and protect the neighborhoods, the neighbors from this. And one of the easiest things that we found was that if the Department of Health has hold over a cottage colony or anybody that's renting, I think, more than 2 places, they're already falling under some pretty strict guidelines. So it was crafted, in my opinion, as a way to catch those who were falling through the cracks on that and protect the rental base and whatever. Rocky Point, between the HOA and the health department, already has a pretty locked down location. There's certain things you can't do with your rentals over there.
Sure, they have their own rules. I get that.
And they go farther than our permit process. So, Dan?
Moratorium could go away as far as I'm concerned. I get why they put it in. Anybody that went to that information meeting, that they're trying to lock in, so they're thinking maybe they could extend long-term rentals for short-term. That's why they were doing that. I don't know if the economics are gonna cover that aspect or not. I don't know. So I don't see that holding that well. The family member thing, same issue. You're trying to transfer it, you're not. The line issue. This side of the road is okay, this side needs permit, I get that complaint, totally understand. Say that was a great information meeting, really was. Too much more people didn't come, but it was good.
Okay.
I believe it should be town-wide like it's proposed. I am in favor of that. I don't see why the moratorium would have to be in there.
Again, this is not a vote. This was just a straw poll of the board. I think at the end of the meeting tonight, when we close the public hearing, we may be directing the planning board to send back to legal to have a redraft of that to present at the September meeting. But again, the public hearing is still open. If anybody wants to speak, more than welcome. All right, minutes review. Everybody had a chance to review the clerk's minutes from the July 11th meeting. Any corrections requested, deletions? Peggy?
Yeah, it looks like I said, it looks like there's a platform in front of the town that I'll produce some work. I don't remember saying that. I remember saying the new stuff's and everything looks great. But I don't know if that's part of what I said. But I don't remember saying that it still needs work.
That might have actually been me
Okay.
saying that right outside the front door needs a lot of work. You know, I was probably adding right on, and I don't think I was throwing my voice, but you never know. Huh? Add a space.
I still think it looks good.
Yeah, the steps are awesome. Any other corrections requests? These are the clerk's minutes. If you have any issues with them, contact the clerk. Public comment, other public comment.
It's interesting that the new owner of the ice cream shop happens to be my wife's dentist, but
The dentist owns an ice cream shop. Driving traffic.
amazing. He's putting something funky in the ice cream and every plate. There's a line of like 50, 60 people, 4 wide. I'm like, I'm glad. I think he's gonna get out of the tennis business and go straight to eating ice cream if that keeps up. But I'm glad, but it's just very noticeable, even when we come out of the meeting a couple of times, there's like 100 people again.
Used to be that way a long time ago. Years
It
ago, it
looks
was
like
that
a
way.
throwback to the
Yeah.
old child, you know, I swear it must be back in. Not that it was ever out, but, good, I think the neon sign.
Joe's buying ice cream after the meeting, line up behind him. Anything else? All right, moving forward, communications. Wish I had a better update for everybody. We're still in a holding pattern with National Grid on the tower. One small positive, I think, the county has presented to the fire station and the ambulance space, proposal for putting a shorter tower next to the fire hall, so that we can definitely make sure that we don't have overcrowding on top of the mountain when they put everything in. That's gonna I believe catch me on this one, the receive or the send for the county, the transmit for the county. So we'll be able to have both the county's 911 system here and Herkimer County's 911 system here, which we rely on for all dispatch. So the communications, hopefully at some point, will be much better. I know the cell companies are champing at the bit to get things going up there. National Grid, they're just so understaffed, and they've made this bed themselves, and we're gonna have to lay in it with them, unfortunately. They cut back so many personnel, the local personnel, state personnel. I mean, they're bringing personnel in from Massachusetts. And I know I go on my little rampage. I'm trying not to say I love New York State too many times tonight, Steve.
I'm not counting.
Okay. National Grid's right up there with New York State. The state got out of the way. The towers are up there. The branches are on it. They're running fiber line. If we could get power up there, we'd be in much better shape. I'll keep you posted. This brings us to the planning board. Have I stolen all thunder from the planning board?
Our next meeting is the last Wednesday of the month. at 7:00.
Okay. Assessor codes, parks, building, is all in your, packet. We do have Adele here, so you get the floor tonight, Adele.
I think the only thing really in my report that I wanted to highlight was the fact that moving the cocktail party to Arrowhead Park, worked out fantastic. The weather definitely cooperated. We did realize if it had been rainy, we might not have all fit underneath that. And fortunately, it was warm and not raining, and people were able to sit in some benches outside, so it wasn't too crowded under the tent. I don't know if anyone heard anything different than it being fantastic.
All right, it was good.
I haven't heard negative at all.
We haven't had our wrap-up meeting, so I'm hoping that we are able to pay all the bills. And then next year is gonna be our 25th anniversary, so we're hopefully gonna plan bigger and better things for next year.
And maybe since the symphony concert, plan for the rain next year.
Yeah, we can't go wider with the tent, but we could go longer. with That cocktail party tent if we do it in the same. I'll jump back up to the snowmobile permit stuff and just ask if anyone has heard from Town of Webb, because I think they're selling permits. So, but I have heard nothing as far as the new program and how to access it or anything. So
I haven't. Have you, Bonnie?
That she was going to think about it and get back to us, but that was it. Not according to the software, according to the other.
So we was down there,
Yeah.
it was gonna take it under advisement, let it get back to us, and that was months ago.
Right.
You've seen the latest design though, right?
they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, which should work fine. But like I mentioned before, the only problem I thought was they weren't able to funnel it, so that so many permits went to my office and the rest went through LaForge. So we would have to communicate with their office just to say, hey, my office is gonna work on permits today, so.
Send them our way.
We'll keep that dialogue open. Or hopefully close it. Anything else from your report?
Don't think so. I mean, you have down on the agenda already, just a couple other things like the Marble Field that you talked about that. I don't think there was anything else. I had a simple side. Any questions about?
All right, normally we'd have parks here, assessor codes and highway, but,
I have some building.
oh, sure. Yep. No, go ahead.
I think you've seen the alarm quote to that. It wasn't I don't know if it even needs a board action, but have you discussed that any further with your buildings manager and whether or not we can move ahead with that project?
I think there was one question still left hanging in the balance of who's gonna manage the box though, right? Or the equipment.
Yeah, who would, and I asked the question, I just wondered if that had, like, we have a bill for maintenance on the alarm system,
Yeah, we get billed by Johnson Controls right now.
for maintenance separate from monitoring.
Mhm.
Cause you're talking the monitoring,
This is just for monitoring.
correct?
I mean, we can look at them. I mean, if they're already gonna be around, they're doing the fire hall. And they have other customers in this area. They're a local semi-local Adirondack company.
Refresh me, did they use the existing equipment that was there or did they come? Okay.
Yep.
So,
The proposal for here is there, the alarm panel burned, the brand new one burned up at the fire hall. So he completely replaced it with a very small board. And it also has an internet line, it does not need a phone.
they don't, they're different boards. What's this one, 20 years old?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, if not more.
Well, the fire department might be up. Competing with you on that,
Right.
of course.
Can they do the monitoring? I mean, the maintenance also?
I'm assuming,
We didn't get a quote on that though.
no, we didn't.
Can we get a quote on that?
Sure.
Okay. And again, just like the other people, I did notice that the prevailing wage was mentioned.
Yes.
Okay.
153.
We got in trouble with that the last time around when the guy asked me, do you want to pay prevailing wage? I said, well, if I don't have to, I don't want to. Department of Labor called me right up and told me how things are supposed to be. I love New York State.
I'd just like to say to the car show, and nobody's here for parks, but they just did an excellent job helping us with the car show. We got rained out, obviously. It was a total disaster, but they were excellent, helped us get through it. So
Yeah, so on that same note, Parks was awesome that whole weekend.
Oh.
They're busy weekends, so they were awesome.
They were
Symphony,
crazy. It's a lot.
Car show, the army band,
It's a lot.
we even had Shakespeare was able to come and perform on Saturday, so yeah, Parks
I
was.
think I made 3 days,
I think so.
this is pretty good considering half of the time we could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. Wow. I had over 3 inches of rain in my house.
Keep that in mind when you see the parks budget at the end of the year with a little bit of overtime bump.
Yeah.
But again, it was money well spent. The crew did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
You know,
Long day.
couple of days after the symphony's out of here, you couldn't even tell the tent had been in that park in the ball field or whatever. We've got a good crew.
Yeah.
All right. I guess you get to do the highway report. She can take notes and do the reports all at the same time.
Whoops. Okay, he hauled garbage and recyclables, swept downtown sidewalks in Toby on Thursdays. We do this every Thursday from now until Labor Day. Ditched some sections on Uncas Road and pulled some rocks. Hauled gravel to the shop for Uncas Road, Moose River Plains, Toby and Townsend Trail. Cut grass along roadsides and sidewalks. Checked roads after heavy rains and storms. Brought the town barge up to the 7th Lake for their fireworks. We'll be bringing it back to 4th this week. Would like to thank Jerry Levy for the use of the party barge trailer. Coming up, he's gonna haul garbage and recyclables, finish up hauling gravel, have more rocks to pull on the Uncas Road, haul gravel into Moose River Plains and stockpile it along the roadside for future use, replace some 12-inch culverts on the Moose River Plains Road, add gravel to Toby Trail in front of Eagle Bay Village. Trail is worn out from the snowmobiles. Still do not have a date on our paving on Uncas Road, but it should be soon. Going to depend on the crew will be back in the area and plant availability. Now that the easements have been filed, we can legally enter private property. They plan on starting the Townsend Trail after Labor Day. Transfer station opens 7 days a week. from 8 to 11:45, then 1 to 6:45, closed from 12 to 1 for lunch daily. It's been very busy. They're trying their best to keep it as clean as possible. The crew has done a great job keeping things moving. Just to note that all traffic has to enter the building. Please make sure that you're putting the right items in the right locations in the building. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask the attendants. And then he apologized for not making the meeting. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to him.
I've got to back up to parks real quick. I've got it down on here, the bear-proof receptacles. We started having an issue in the park with our friends from the forest. And when we reached out to the DEC to alert them to the problem, they asked us what happened to the bear-proof containers we promised to get 6 years ago. They were going to
Poured out.
yeah. The tone on the phone from Albany was, it would be really nice if you got some, so we don't have to fine you for feeding the bears. Mike, what's that? Well, we did promise 6 years ago we were gonna get some. We priced them out. They were horrendously expensive, out of California. Mike, went back out and priced them again, and they've come down at least, 2/3 in price. $1,900, I believe, was the price he got. I authorized him to get 4 of them so we don't get fined.
I said to him, we'll get them November, just in time so we can store them for the winter, so that we'll have them for next year. I thought, maybe we could, but whatever.
But, getting to wave the piece of paper in front of Albany and tell them we have ordered them, we're spending the money on them, they will be in place. And at budget time, we'll be talking about a 1 or 2 a year. And somebody had an idea, and I can't remember who the heck had the idea. If anybody wants the naming rights on any of our bear-proof receptacles, let us know.
Oh, yeah, there you go. $2,000 a container, you get your name put on side.
All right.
Or a logo.
Stranger things have happened.
Is that how much?
1,900, I believe.
They were like $5,000.
They were-
When we first priced them, it was outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy.
You never know. All right, then back to the town clerk for the town clerk's report.
Okay, where am I? Okay, so revenue is $22,795. Most of that obviously is cottages and sewer bills. Dog control officer. I forgot last month, we needed to appoint Gina as our dog control officer.
I make the motion, we appoint Gina as our dog control officer. This is separate from where we take dogs. That still goes down to Alder Creek, not Alder Creek, Woodgate,
Yep.
not quite that
At
far.
Stady, yeah.
So we have a motion.
Second.
Okay,
Again, discussion, this is just for the dog control officer to satisfy New York State. All in favor? Aye, opposed? Carried. Thank you, Gina, for stepping forward.
then I have a resolution from, who was this from? I got it for so long ago. Adirondack Park Local Government Review Board wants us to pass a resolution. I think we've done it every year.
In support of,
Basically, they want $300 is what the resolution kind of says. And then
this usually is something we do
at our organization.
at our organizational
Yeah.
meeting.
So do you want to wait to just do it then?
Well, yeah, because especially since it's for 2024,
Right, yeah.
this
Okay.
can wait till January.
Okay, good.
Well, if they can get their money now, they want it.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have a resolution establishing energy benchmarking requirements for certain municipal buildings.
This is attached to the last 3 pages of your agenda. This gets us money, right, Connie?
Exactly right, and all the stuff that we're proposing gets the town money and more money.
It's just making statements of fact is basically the boilerplate of this. If anybody hasn't,
And so when future money becomes available and I need to correct this make it better, then something the whole town to do is after that. Everybody's, everybody that has children out there, their futures are out there on the line, so we wanna make sure that we're doing the best for town residents in the future.
That resolution says that the town will get a real good handle on where all the energy is being spent in all the different buildings. So when the money does come in, you can see where to target it. So it's efficient.
Correct. So we're gonna have an energy study done.
Are they doing free energy audits anyway?
Well, it's gonna pull all this information together with Bonnie.
Yeah, she had asked for all the,
The bills.
bills, yep.
And then for like last year or so, and then they'll go back and they'll contact with permission through this resolution to contact all the energy companies to get the money back from years ago. So you can really see where the money's going and how much it's being spent.
We got some real low hanging fruit up in Fern Park with the warming rooms and the bathrooms and the electric heat in there. And that's mimicked elsewhere in the town too. I mean, we've made a couple of nice steps with these units that we have here, but the rest of the town hall could be done too. So I think adopting this and moving forward is the thing to do, unless anybody has any deep reservations to it.
Well,
No,
the downside.
Good idea to find out where your power is going, being wasted.
So somebody like to make a motion on the
I'll
resolution?
make-
JT's made the motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion. I'd like to thank everybody for bringing this forward. I think we're going in the right direction. The committee's been doing a good job keeping us abreast of what's out there. So,
Thank you, and if we could kind of continue on that avenue.
I gotta pass the motion here first.
Okay.
I was giving you the thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Connie, go ahead.
So again, we were talking about doing community solar. And so I know a couple people have reached out, and I think the second one from Ampion is probably a good option. I have an example personally. I've contacted them several times about getting in touch with the town. It's my knowledge they haven't done that. So I think Ampion, that the town web has been using, they get about a 10% discount on energy bills. And there's no reason for us not to do it, but we have to have somebody that's going to say, I kind of throw it on your plate, Bonnie. I hated to do that, but if somebody can at least have a discussion, present the facts to the board and vote on it, that would resolve the problem with the board. All we need is people in the community to sign up community solar, where they're gonna actually save money. Town to do the same thing, then all that money is good for us, and we get the $5,000, which will bring us to another level that gives us another price. So the money is there. Town web is leading us by quite a bit right now.
Would Ambien be willing to send a representative to come to the board meeting?
I'm sure they would. They just need to have somebody from the town board or that, any of you contact them and say, okay, what's the information? Can you come to the board meeting, present, et cetera, and then make that.
I got the number from Dan, so
I
I'll
actually
call.
got an email from somebody from them through
Yes.
Dan, but I didn't have time to respond. So I have.
Okay, so I
I will
know
do that.
Dan, and I know Dan mentioned you specifically,
Right.
because initially when we started this, you were gonna be the liaison between.
So I will get back to them, just like this week.
You will get back.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
This week, I just couldn't do it, but I did get an email. And it's summer, sorry.
And then the other group to piggyback on what Connie was saying is the Northern Power and Light. You guys, anybody heard about them?
Yeah, Dan sent me something on that, I think, last week. I didn't forward it along, and I apologize, but they do solar and hydro, I believe, right? I think when I went to their website,
Mostly hydro.
mostly hydro.
That's more locally oriented in like in the Adirondack region. We wouldn't get the same discount as we would if we went through Anthem.
Right.
But we're using local power sources.
Kind of keeping the money within the park.
Right. So whatever the board decides, either way is a win-win.
Right.
Um,
This one is, you can sign up. Both would be super beneficial.
They would, but again, the last one didn't have the big savings for the,
Keep the money, like that starting in St. Regis Falls.
Yep.
To support the local effort, because there's not a lot of that coming northern New York part.
right.
I think it's definitely worth looking into both.
Right, they'd be a great fallback if Ambien doesn't seem to be a fit and from what I'm seeing, but I think we need to take a look at it. I know Paul Smith had signed up with them, a bunch of others, I think, use them.
Northern Lit Power.
Yeah, Northern Power and Light, so they're not a fly by night at all.
And to answer any questions, then I can give you his phone number.
I will send that link around to you guys, check out their website. Thank you.
Just have one more thing. You were gonna speak about where the location of the possible sign would be for the town
Yes,
historian.
Thank you. As you know, we've been working on getting an historical sign in the park about what was there before 1963. And the town purchased it from the O'Hara family. What I've been doing since the past few months is I've gotten a selection of photographs that would be on this sign, working with Bruce O'Hara. I have been working on the verbiage that would go on the sign for these pictures. I've got a designer who's given me a quote for designing the sign and having it constructed, which I'm certainly sent a draft of what it looks like to the board. So I've been working with Dan Kieferbach on granting as a joint project for town and the Historical Society. The Historical Society has applied for a grant from one organization. I'm on the way to getting quotes for the design, for the construction of the sign, the framing that the sign's going to go into. There's a third piece I need to get an estimate for, and that's the installation in the park. I'm notified by Mike that he doesn't have the equipment to do the installation. I would have to work with the local contractors. I'm fine with that. Now, what I'd like to present to the board, possibility of where it could be located. It wouldn't affect the view of the beach and Fourth Lake. And we've already gotten something historic installed there now. It's that boulder with the plaque right by the tennis court. That's, if we could put the historical sign maybe to the right or left of that, it's not impacting any views, but not only that, it's in the same place as another historic note being when the town acquired it. But that's one possibility. I wanted to know what the feeling was for it.
What's the construction? Is it wood?
It's probably some kind of wood kind of fabric. I don't have a color on that yet, but I can get back to you on that. The preference would be something like wood looking at least, right?
The boulder becomes problematic during fire and lights with the bonfire. If it's made out of wood,
Yeah, that might change the look.
because I think they pretty much put that bonfire like right next to that rock.
Okay.
And the reason they pick that is when you get a couple hundred people standing around that bonfire, it's the only place you can really do it.
How about, you have the tennis court fencing all around.
Mhm.
Most of the people going into the park or whatever, they're gonna walk by the tennis courts. Why not on the side that's facing the cottages? Along there.
Parallel with the fencing, so that's.
Yeah, parallel with the fence and parallel with the line of cottages, but it's against it, close to the
Yeah.
fence.
Gary,
Why don't you make the sign removable so that you can take it down that event and put it back?
well, the front field, as you will, it becomes constrained anyways. I was already kind of thinking where he's looking right now along the fence line, because quite honestly, it's an ugly fence line. This would give something along the fence line
We're gonna look at it.
that would dress it up, break it up. Parents someplace to stop and talk for 10 minutes while the kids run past them.
Right.
Seriously,
Coming
it's
back from concerts.
we're coming back from the concerts. I kind of like that spot the best.
But they needed to get something, a general idea of what your feeling is. Aside, that sort of contractor would need to know around here where he's going to put it and what it would take for him.
And it'd make it easier to cover up in the winter, like we cover up the ball field scoreboard and stuff like that, because they don't take those down. Just I'm guessing the size of this is going to be a little bit bigger.
It's 4x4, but the frame would be a little bit bigger. But
Yeah.
I could also find out if it's something that's where the sign could be removable.
Okay.
If it's parallel with the fence, it wouldn't obscure anything.
There's not a lot of space
Yeah.
between the fence and the walkway, so
Nope.
depending on how wide.
But it can go pretty tight to the fence. I mean,
Mhm.
you can go-
You probably just as easy to cover it than to remove it, then you
Yeah.
gotta put it somewhere, then you gotta drive into it or drive over it or whatever it could drive.
The materials are very environmentally resistant, weather
Yeah.
resistant. The person is doing this in science for the Generic Museum. That's where I got the name from.
Okay.
So does that sound like a good idea?
Get us some
Yeah.
renderings.
Okay. I wanted to do that too.
That sounds like a great project.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Hey,
She's the boss. That was your last one?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
thank you, Ron.
Well, I had the community solar down here. We've got that done. She's already taken care of the energy benchmarking. We're having a ball field dedication. I don't know if anybody's been up to the ball field recently. The parks have already hung the sign for Marlowe Field on the ball field. I'll give you the short version of the speech tonight, but then please come Sunday for an even shorter version of the speech. It's quite honestly to honor the Marlowe family, Mary, BJ, and Todd, and Mike. Yeah, sorry, our past justice. He didn't have much to do up on the ball field, but he had a lot to do in this room. But Mary has lived the town children for how long, Adele?
Longer than I can remember.
I coached up on that field, worked for Mary before I got on the town board. The building you see out here, the youth commission building, Todd built that in his spare time, believe it or not. The dugouts on that field, Todd built. Anything that I ever asked while I was coaching, Mary made happen. Just once, well, what do you think the kids would like to do? Off the cuff, I said, love to take them to a Yankee game. Next thing I know, half an hour later, there was 2 buses lined up. They had invited the Old Forge kids and we went to a Yankee game. It's neat living in a small town, but it's also neater when you can recognize the hard work that somebody's done, the passion that somebody had. And that, quite honestly, was Mary and her family. So Sunday at 1 o'clock, there's going to be hopefully, if the weather permits, a little ad hoc softball game. And I might cook a couple hot dogs and hamburgers if anybody trusts my cooking ability. But we'll see you there, hopefully. Please come. Spread the word. I've got summer staffing down here. I make this plea again for next year. If we're already buying bear-proof garbage cans for next year, we'll train anybody's grandkid, kid, whatever that wants to lifeguard on the beach. It's a great summer job for 2 or 3 years as you go through college or whatever. I'm making the appeal for next year because poor Mary had a hard time getting lifeguards this year. We had a couple for 2 weeks, one for 1 week. I think we've got another one maybe coming in for a
Yeah,
week or
so
two.
there's some training today that took place in the coach's cabin so that we will have a lifeguard for Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the next 2 weekends.
For the next 2 weekends. It's tough. Quite honestly, not that I want to make our beach less safe, but it's the 3rd or the 4th time I'm going to mention New York State. The campgrounds in New York State, spare a couple campgrounds, just went lifeguard free. Except for the $1 Million Beach in Lake George and a couple of others. I don't know what happened down at Nick's Lake, but they're having the same issue finding anybody. And we all know that there's people swimming all around town at Buck Hollow here, wherever. At some point it'd be nice if we could go back to swim at your own risk. But I do like having a lifeguard on that beach. I just wish we didn't have to have 3 of them. I think one could watch our small beach, but the health department won't allow that sometimes. We keep making it smaller, and smaller in order to allow it to happen. Please, grandkids, kids, nephews, nieces, put them up for the summer. They'll buy you dinner on the money they can make. It's gonna be good money. Public comment. Anybody have anything for public comment?
Just one thing we forgot to mention on the energy, thing was, the, wind power. It had a presentation, on the, the wind turbines.
Turbines.
I think, and probably sent that to you. Did you get that?
I don't know if it's lost on my email.
I'll check with it. That would be another option for even over at the transfer station. I know Jim's looking, well, he didn't actually end up attending that meeting, but that was sent to him. He had expressed interest, but another way. Power.
And these aren't the big wind farm things, people. These are much smaller in scale. I think the golf course would be perfect for it. A couple other locations where you've got some elevation and breeze coming through. They won't let us put them on the cell tower though. Gotta have branches. All right,
Got one thing.
okay, Dan.
It's gonna quiz Sean who's here, but he's not here. Probably ought to get out back here. It's getting, them potholes are getting ridiculous.
I noticed that when I pulled in tonight.
Try to coordinate something with Mike and Sean about getting there. Gonna get complaints, people going that way too.
Yep.
And eventually, we really need to kind of shape our little parking lot back here for the employees, so I just wanna keep that rolling,
Put that out there again.
There's another parking lot too. Throw that in there. Extending the parking lot.
Yes.
And
Actually, I met with-
remember talking about that?
I met with Grid again, so that I got him on the pole removal, so.
Yeah.
I hope that comes together sooner than later. I had three of them
National
here.
Grid removing a pole.
I could probably back a vehicle into it or something if that would help.
Well, believe me, there was lots of discussions about it, so I was a little embarrassed when they came and the hole swallowed up their car, maybe they won't come back now, just, we gotta get on board with that a little bit.
As anybody saw this morning, we have issues to deal with that parking lot anyways with the drainage.
Yeah.
That drop inlet is completely gummed up.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for public comment?
You mentioned a few meetings ago that you might be making town flags. Did you ever get that?
The last discussion I had was with Adele. And we were gonna talk to John Kalel. I don't think we've moved past anything yet, but I think it's a great idea and we need to kind of keep moving on it to, well, because we have the flag. And they did it and presented it, so we really need their permission to do it. I think would be the right thing to do. And then maybe we'll get some made up and sell them. I think people would like them. Yeah, so, yeah, we'll keep it on. It's there somewhere, lost in the summer of insanity. Yeah. I think that's. Thanks for bringing it up again, because.
Yeah, I like.
Yeah.
Free flag pole.
Yep.
All right. Oh, Peggy?
Speaking of flags, has anybody been to Oakville area and seen the veterans? Pictures of veterans in the years that they were in the service?
No, they've got those hanging on the poles, do they?
That's really a nice tribute to veterans. I didn't know if that was something that,
The, Regional American Committee,
Yeah.
yeah, they meet every month and they have been talking about that as
that would
a
be a really
fundraiser.
good thing.
It would be a really neat thing. And a great way of honoring.
Oh, yeah, no, they've definitely been talking.
Okay,
'Cause
Good.
there are a lot of veterans.
oh, heck yes,
I make a statement about that.
sure.
I've seen a lot of towns when I'm coming up from Pennsylvania or upstate New York. What a lot of these towns do is they have the flag on the pole is a photograph of the person.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the moment of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's really fun.
I think they do that in Montreal too.
Yeah,
Or like,
I'm sorry, you said it, I'm sorry.
Oakville,
I mean, the pictures.
Cool. Keep us posted on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Courtney's in charge of fundraising.
Is he? Okay. I'm guessing there's a donation with each flag going on the pole.
Right, well, so that, the idea is to get, someone as a veteran to pay for the banner and provide a photograph and dates and stuff like that.
Excellent. Very good. All right, that's all I have on my list. That brings us to a motion to close the public hearing on short-term rental regulations.
Oh,
Offered by Tim,
Second,
second by Herb, discussion. Anybody remember when we opened the public hearing?
It was October.
October? I'd say we've done our due diligence on listening, the emails we received, the calls, the in-person conversations. I think this has been a positive course of action. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. What's the town board's pleasure on the regulation as drafted? We've heard many conversations about a couple of changes possibly. I'd like to make the first one, to propose we drop the moratorium on the new purchase rental, have that stricken from the document. Take these one at a time.
Yeah, I don't know how we wanna do it.
That's the first.
All right, second.
Who made the motion? I'm
I
sorry.
made the
You
motion.
made it.
Anybody have any discussion on that?
I think they kind of knew that from our last information meeting. What you mean?
People just don't.
That's been one of the biggest topics since we started.
They got some hurdles. I mean, they're on the right track. They're trying. I get it. You know, and you got Hatfields and McCoys here. Sometimes you're hoping everybody meets in the middle here somehow. So
Right. And quite honestly, it's one of the things that towns, not just us, across the park, across the state and the country, wherever you've got a tourist location and you've got a limited properties, it's become an issue, and how to legislate it. Nobody's come up with the perfect answer yet. So I think this is a step in the right direction. All in favor of having that one redacted?
Aye.
right.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. I think the only other one that's been standing out to the board members is the regulation on the local.
Yeah, that's, I guess I'm gonna call it my thing. I don't know if what everybody else thinks, but I think that there should be some way, and I don't know what that way is, that you 100-mile radius, something where people can come and they can be their own agent. And not have to have people that I can think of examples of 3 people that I know that manage their own places. And if there's a problem, they come from wherever, or they call what they need to call. And to have an agent, which I guess could be a non-paid agent, but they still have to have an agent, you know, doesn't seem to make sense to me.
I mean, I believe it's a contact, correct?
Contact, yeah, and I think you'll get pushback from the planning board, it needs to be somebody that can be contacted and show up immediately. So that there is if there is a problem, it gets resolved. So maybe if you take that out, their recourse for that would be like, there's gonna be a penalty if you do not show up, if you can't respond immediately.
Define.
What is immediate? What is immediate to you?
Reasonable, depends on what.
What's
So 45 minutes?
It depends on what the situation is. So
Hang-
that's
hang
why
on.
they said.
I'm just saying.
it's in town,
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just saying, so somebody that lives in Utica could be here in and out.
And it's not just a question of whether the police can handle it or the codes officer can handle it or anything. It also comes down to, you need a plumber, it's broken and it's.
Correct.
And it's
And so
running.
that person knows the plumber they're gonna call and they call them. Yeah, that's just, it's my thing. Do what you wanna do. My thing. So-
And I guess the only reason that I don't. Not that I don't necessarily agree or disagree, but what we've had in place has worked. For those and quite a few of the people that we've got. Joe, I'll pick on you. You're in Utica. Do you have a local contact?
I do, I've never had to use it.
And that's,
But do you have the contact, or does the codes people have to call the contact? Or do they call you?
it's on your
That's
permit,
what the contact's for.
right? But
It's never been an issue, but I mean, I'm here all the time, but I'll.
it's a local designee. It doesn't have to be an agent. It doesn't, I know there's communities down like in the Carolinas or wherever, where you've got to have a local real estate agent managing your property. for you.
Right.
That's not this.
I mean, even if I have a contact, I'll list one on my permit. A lot of times the contact is even busy. I mean, I know enough people that I'm gonna call whoever, if I can't make it, which never happens, but if it happens, I know enough people that I'll call somebody that will pay and say, hey, whatever it may be.
Herb, put me down as your local contact.
Right?
I'm not renting. It's
Sorry,
not
Chris.
for me. I can be the local contact.
I was
But I'll
just,
probably be in Florida.
again, it's just, it's not an agent. It's just having a local number
Yeah.
to call in an emergency situation that's not police driven or a codes question.
There's no question, you cannot ever have 24-hour coverage in anything. It's
No,
impossible.
you cannot.
It's impossible.
Right. So
You
it's,
could be there every day, every second.
maybe if there's making two places in the document for, you know, a local contact and or the emergency number to call.
Yeah,
So as it is now, in the permit,
Yeah,
you
without
make 'em-
me here, I don't know what the permit.
Joe, what's your permit look like?
I mean, I'm sure there's
Is there a spot in there that says you gotta have a local contact, or how's that work?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, there
So
is.
that's already is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not changing.
It's never had to be used, but
Yeah.
I imagine.
it's nothing different than we've been doing.
Yeah, we don't care who it is, just as long as it has a local address. They have a-
Yeah.
Right. So, but you care about it because you want somebody who's can immediately respond.
Never. No, you never have to. do
These
that.
things have a way of working themselves out. So
Yeah.
it's a business. You're renting your place, and they're paying a fairly large amount of money, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And if it gets around that they say, well, the landlord's never there. And we've had trouble all week and we can't get them because of Florida. That stuff goes on wherever,
Right.
the
That's one of
social
the
media
problems.
stuff.
correct,
And not only is it a problem for the town, it's gonna be a problem for you as a business. So
correct.
I
So,
think-
so why does the town even have to be
To
involved in
have
that?
a name.
Just to have, just because somebody's gonna call the town and say, who do we call?
Right,
It's
the
just a
owner of the property.
It's just a,
It's in you.
who do we call? That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
I think we could talk this one to death all
Yep.
night long. I think we need to.
Deal with 2002.
It's in there already.
Not, hang on, that's that,
Well-
it would be, because we're adopting this town-wide, it would be a change town,
Everything's changing. You
right?
can't,
Yeah.
you know.
We're not having
the
two
new
separate
thing-
policies.
So it's worked for 22 years, you know. and-
Peggy, sorry.
Don't they have to list cabin or whatever they're renting in case of emergency, contact so-and-so?
Yes,
So that has to be posted. in the
Right.
building.
so the owner of the property puts his name there and says, call me if I have a problem.
Right.
That's not what I'm talking.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true.
Yeah. All right, I guess we'll take a vote on the board to see how this one. Would you like to make the motion to have that redacted?
Yes,
Anybody want to second that for purposes of having a vote?
To not have a contact
To
person.
not have a contact person?
The owner would be the contact person. in this new-
Correct.
Okay, that's fine with me.
All right, so that's a,
Call, that person will call it, yeah.
all right, so that's a second for purposes of having a vote, people, okay?
Yep.
All right, all in favor of redacting that from the regulation?
aye.
Opposed? Aye. I'm opposed.
Back up. You're gonna throw out the 2002 permit,
None, well,
Well,
because we're making one now, right?
correct,
Okay, so that's what,
correct.
so you're just gonna strike that from the original permit, and the original permit is gonna get slid over to everybody in town.
well, what you're doing.
Shaking your head in
The
circles.
old,
Yes,
no,
or
no, no.
I just
The
want
old one
to
has to
clarify.
go to the new one to come in.
Yes, the new one supersedes the old one because it's townwide.
Okay, so if we say no to this new one, the old people name can come off as well. We're not making lines again in the sand again. like
There will
we
be
were
a
last time.
new permit and that line will not be on there.
Right,
Local
correct.
company.
Joe,
You're saying then the contact would actually just be the owner.
correct.
Correct.
If this pass, if
Yeah.
we pass this and
Yeah.
move forward.
Yeah,
And
and
the owner contacts, who they're supposed to contact.
Right, who
So
they
the
choose.
idea, though, it's just that the code
Folks.
office knows that you have someone local that they can contact.
This is point of clarification, but we are actually in the middle of a vote.
Yep.
One of the voters had asked for a point of clarification. Right now, we have a motion to redact that from the new permit moving forward with 2 yes votes and 1 no vote so far.
I'd redact it as long as it was the same all the way around. But the only thing I would say is if it doesn't work, you could always re-enter it. I don't know, how many complaints do you get? The code person isn't here to answer this. So how many do you get? Joe says he's had permits, never even been called, so maybe it ain't a big deal.
Amy's had a few.
Amy's had a few.
Yeah. She had a few of a property.
Yeah, I think it was our codes officer that said it should stay in there,
Mhm.
you know. same.
Um,
I suggest that possibly. You know, most people live different distances away. I can understand. If you're owning property up here renting and you live in Florida.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you. I should have probably put in there a 100-mile
Have
radius.
somebody.
I should have put a 100-mile radius in there, but you know,
I would have.
I did amend it to the 100-mile radius.
since this was an item that came up in
Yeah.
tonight only,
Yes.
if somebody wanted to table this portion, it could be tabled until next month's meeting. I think we need more clarification. on
Sure.
this.
I'd like a table, just.
Let's table it.
That all you need is one motion to table and it's instantly tabled. Thank you. So we'll get Amy in here and have a point
Sorry
of
for stirring
clarification.
the pot.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
you know, I'd hate to remove in my opinion, I'd hate to remove something that has worked for 20+ years. So, and this is, we've taken a careful look at this. I don't want to force anything through that seems contentious. So
Yeah.
let's
I'm
take a
good. It seems
closer
like
look at
the
this.
moratorium's out. That's not contentious.
And
Yeah.
maybe if the wording was crafted a little better.
That might be better.
It might be more
Or
palatable.
it might be more palatable. I agree with that.
Okay,
I agree with that.
very good. Thank you, Dan, for tabling that. All right, as of right now then, that's all it has come before the board except for paying bills. I would like to redirect the planning board at this point to contact legal to have that one section redacted. The board did vote on that unanimously. All right, I have nothing for executive session. Motion to pay highway.
So move.
Second, discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion to pay general and sewer.
Offered.
I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so carried. Well, that was fun, folks. The next meeting's on the 12th of September. We'll have some clarification on a couple of things. Thank you very much for coming. Motion to adjourn.
I mean,
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
There's something you wanted
What's your
to.
date on your next planning board meeting? Yes,
Got an email yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
30.
it just. It's unfortunate, some of the meetings, some of them are here for.
I'd highly recommend a bunch of us go to the next planning board meeting.
I'll do my best.
Employee, whatever.
Clarify that one, but
I gotta get home to Mr.
Like that.
All right, understand.
Okay.
Good night.
Some of the issues, I think.
I'm not sure why, but it's.
I used to do, this is the best thing, but one of the things I used to do. I do them. Before anybody came in, like.